Right, so if we are recording, that means we are live and we have let everybody into the room that's currently online. So then, then we can kick off. So, good morning to everyone from wherever you are, on the other side of the world, on one of the islands of the Philippines, or here in Europe and Germany and around. Welcome to our webinar on aquaculture and fisheries and the way forward for the Philippines. We're really glad to have you all here today. And I would kick off very quickly with a few rules of the day to get everybody ready. At the moment, you see my screen and you see the opening screen with a wonderful list of great speakers and experts that will share their thoughts on the topic today. And we will also have time to hear your thoughts and get your questions. But let's quickly have a look at the program for the day, of the agenda. If I can get my mouse in the right place. There we go. So that's the agenda. The times on the left there for the people in Germany, that's obviously not 2 o'clock in the morning, but that's the Philippine time, 2:30 p.m. And yes, we will, I'm just quickly welcoming everybody. Then we'll have opening remarks from Marco Schlüter. We will then go into our aquaculture experts sharing their thoughts. And there will be time for questions and answers. And we will look at the program as we go along. I just want to remind you, see, sometimes I start thinking in German, that we're recording the presentation. And please, when you're not speaking, turn off your camera because that helps us with bandwidth, and mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And then you can use the chat that is active, and you can raise your hand to the speakers. We will give time at the end of their presentations for questions in chat, which will be the easiest and probably the best with communication, especially with bad connections. And we'll see if there's time and space to also allow for live questions. So we will have a look. Also rename yourself, put your name in the settings so we can see who you are, using your name and the organization that you represent, if you are representing an organization. And then we will also share the recording link of the seminar via email with all of you. And to those who registered and maybe could not attend. And any other questions, you can also, during this time, email Federica at Naturland. She's the one that is managing everything in the background. She's essentially our producer today. So yes, that's it. Welcome. I'm really looking forward to the day because I'm also hoping to learn a lot more about aquaculture because it's not my area of expertise, and really looking forward to hearing from everyone. So we will kick off immediately with our first speaker, Marco Schlüter, who will welcome us. He's the head of strategy and international affairs at Naturland. He will take over the screen sharing in a minute. Just quickly want to introduce him. Marco did an MSc in agriculture, and he became an assistant to a green minister in the German parliament before he became the executive director of IFOM Organics Europe, and he was the director there from 2003 to 2016. And now, currently, he's the head of strategy and international affairs at Naturland. And he also added some more hay to his fork, as we say, by also taking over the position of interim executive director of IFOM Organics International for some months, where I think he's still finishing off and doing some handover. So yeah, he's extremely busy, and we're very happy to have him here today. But just before I hand over to him, I forgot to say something about the seminar, that it's organized in collaboration with Naturland and Sea Trace International. They are a market leader in the sustainable seafood distribution in Manila. And we're going to really look at the sustainability challenges and opportunities for the fish sector in the Philippines, and to also learning about Naturland's work, pioneering a lot of things in the aquaculture sector. So there we go. Marco, are you ready? Then you can take over control of the screen. I can stop sharing, and then we can give the floor to Marco.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Conrad. So I hope you can see me. And yeah, it's always good to be reminded who you are. So thanks for introduction. Always a risk forgetting it. And yeah, welcome to all our friends from Philippines. Heard that you had a heavy typhoon, so I see more people joining step by step. So I hope that this will not be a major issue. So I will now try to share.
Yes, we see the screen sharing. At the moment, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so I'm working from two devices, one with a quick connection, but without presentation, and one with a slower one. I hope it works. So just want to give you a brief introduction about Naturland or Natureland, if it's easier for you. And I think what's really important, I mean, Natureland is a pioneer in organic farming. We turned 40 years last year, so we're 41 now. And we really, we are not a company, we are non-profit, because we really want to change the food and farming system worldwide. We really want to help farmers. I really want to, let's say, contribute to all the challenge that we have, as we now witness with the typhoon, also the issue of climate change, the issue of biodiversity loss, very important for you, the livelihoods for the farmers. All this is what we want to tackle. So we are really on transforming the food and farming system worldwide. That's what we're doing. And that's what we're also contributing today, showing some issues on aquaculture and on seafood. And we really want that organic is not just the exception, but really the rule. Perhaps some words on summary about Natureland, that you have some guess what it is. We are non-profit since 1982, so that is at 41 years old. We have members in about 60 countries and 125,000 farmers, fishermen, gardeners, beekeepers work according to our Naturland standards and are part of our membership, which makes us to one of the largest organic farming association globally. We have also, with our own Naturland standard, around 8,000 certified products that are on the market worldwide, mainly in Germany, but also part in the Philippines. And I think that's something what we talk about on the aquaculture part, but Naturland has a cosmos of standards and also then, of course, labels that you can qualify. Important, of course, the normal Naturland one, which is qualifying for the organic. Naturland wild fish is important today, so you will hear more about that. And also Naturland Fair, where the fair trade aspect is very important, also with some projects in the Philippines. And what is important, we always combine it with the social dimension. So we think organic and social belongs together. So if you are certified and part of Naturland, you will also be in compliance with our social responsibility standards. So, and you see a couple of other standards I don't want to explain today. Important is that we always pioneering. We were the first one, I think, in aquaculture worldwide, organic one, much before it was then part of the regulatory standards in many government or in some government regulation, not many, for example, the European Union. I think we're the first one who have standards on organic insects and so on. So you see here we doing quite a lot, and this is always done in combination normally with a government standard on organic farming, so that you can call it legally organic, because it's in some or many areas there's a condition, also in Philippines, also in the EU. So let's say Naturland as a pioneer was doing certification and labeling and standards already before any government standard exists. Nowadays it's done in a complementary way, so that you have both, and it's then recognized by consumers in the market in countries where people really trust the logo and want to buy Naturland. Of course, mainly is in Europe at the moment, but we're starting getting more and more active also in the Philippines. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We are, I mean, normally we come and do things also to stay. So we're here since the 1990s in the Philippines and doing different project certification. So we have members and company partners in Luzon, Visayas, and in Mindanao. We have more than 3,000 farmers working according to Naturland standards and more, which managing more than 20,000 hectares. So that's all what we do. We also now engaging. This is more than very much also for export business. The certification for the farmers going then to Europe on different products, be it mango or coconut or muscovado sugar, things like that. And we're now engaging more and more for the local markets. And we have also, that shows also the Philippine team, where we say, okay, you saw also Conrad, and then now you see me. You see also that we have local people then of that office. So we have quite a strong team dedicated to our Philippine work, where some of you might have already met, some of us, which I think is a clear sign that we don't want to do it just from outside, but we're really engaging in the country. I think that's the important message here. And I think, so what we want to do here is really building trustworthy organic value chains in the Philippines. And this we do in different action. We are engaging now very much with municipalities. We have our cooperation partner, LOMCP, where we work with different municipalities. And I hope some of you are already and also here today, because we might also think about cooperation, in particular on the aquaculture and wild fish issues. And the other part is that we really look also then coming in value chains. This can be, let's say, with restaurants, but can also be with certain retail chains. C-Trace is actually also a partner where we work and hope to work stronger with in future. So all this is here to build also value chains, because in the end, if we now give an organic integrity, which I think Naturland is very strong in, and you don't have a market in the end, all the efforts of the farmers will then not result really then also in market access. And of course, this is what we ultimately aiming for. And on the other hand, we think also the consumers must know. So we established different activities on social media, a YouTube channel, of course, Instagram, Facebook, and so where we are very active now, also to help the consumers understand better the concept of organic, providing a forum for the different stakeholders in the Philippines in organic farming to the consumers, and hopefully encourage them to look more to buying also than organic produce. Okay, having said this, I think as the main part is a different topic, which is then seafood aquaculture. I will now stop here, but just as a short introduction about Naturland, and I hope more can join and hope that you all can follow well from the very stormy Philippines.
Thank you, Marco. I'm going to take over your screen now. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for giving us the introduction to the day. If you have any questions to Marco, you can put them in the chat. If you have any questions about Naturland, about some more detail around this, then you can also put that in the chat. I see we are about 32 people active at the moment. That's really great. We hope that more can join, but I know it's difficult with the with connectivity, with the typhoon and so on. Yes. So, but before we go on and before we go to our next speaker, let me just see if my screen is working. Yeah, there we go. While we are together, we would also like you to participate. Otherwise, we sit here for 3 hours just listening to people talking to you. So we also want to hear from you, want to keep you alive, keep you going, and also have a bit of fun and participation. So you see the QR code on the screen. That's for to join us on Slido. You can either do it through the QR code, or you can do it through the URL at the bottom, the HTTPS blah blah blah, or you can just go to slido.com and put in that code preceded by the hashtag, and that will get you into our Slido room where you can participate and you can participate in a quiz. So we would like you to join that. I'll give a bit of time for that, for you to join the Slido, and then once people are starting to join, I think I will hand over to my colleague, to Federica. She will run the Slido event. It will she will share her screen.
Okay,
and
I will
then,
start to share the screen, Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Slido is happening.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there we see. Some people have already answered the question. More people are typing. There we go. This little sort of quiz, there's no wrong answer. You just have to say where you're from. And depending on where you're from, and if there are more people from a region, then the words are bigger. So you can see at the moment many people from the National Capital Region, Region 10. There's NCR, which is also the National Capital Region, I assume, and from Cordillera and from Manila. People are joining. Good to see where people are from. And we'll give a chance for a few more people to answer. I see some people put it in the chat. Yeah, you can also put it in the chat if you can't, if for some reason you can't join the Slido. Yeah, so yes, from all over the place. I have not joined the Slido. I'm joining from Bonn, which is in Germany. Federica is also up the road from me here in Bonn. We are on the Rhine River. We make wine. We don't do a lot of fishing in the Rhine, or don't know if there's any aquaculture in the Rhine. And then many of us, many of the German participants are joining from the south, from Bavaria, where Naturland's head office is. I don't know where Christian is, but he will tell us later. Yeah, so there we go. Look at all the people joining. And then we'll probably go to the next. Is there another question in this poll? There we go. We want to know how often do you eat fish? What is your weekly consumption of fish? You never eat fish. I would not believe that. If you're in the Philippines, you never eat fish, then it's maybe if you are a vegetarian. Rarely, regularly, once or twice a week. Yes, we start seeing that every day. Yes. Yeah, that one will see in different parts of the world. Some people don't eat fish every day, or maybe once or twice a week, or once or twice a month. But in the Philippines, being on islands, being with the sea around you, yes, that's what you do. Yeah, clearly.
Go to the next.
Yep. You move on. What type of fish do you most enjoy eating? This is again an open answer. No right and wrong answer here. Wild fish from the river. Okay. Tuna. Yes. I'm sure there will be some more questions about tuna and bangus later. Definitely. Yeah, milkfish, bangus. Yeah, so the bangus, milkfish, and bangus brackets milkfish, all the same thing. Tuna, a lot of tuna is being eaten. Marine fish, whatever is available. Galunggong, tilapia, yes, that is a growth industry in the Philippines and many other parts of the world as well. People include tilapia also in their agriculture systems, in their farming systems, because you can do tilapia on land, or on land in obviously in water, but in a visited a nice tilapia breeding place in Philippines some months ago. Yeah, there we go.
I move to the next, correct?
Yep.
Oh, wait, last participant is typing.
Okay. While they're doing that, I'll have some more coffee. It's early in the morning here. and I need my coffee to get going.
Rabbit fish. Okay. Okay, we go to the next then.
Right, there we go. So, yeah, that's the end of the first quiz. That's just to get us going on the quiz. Later on, we will have some right and wrong answers. I don't know if we have prizes for the first person to answer correctly. But yes, we will come back to Slido as we go along. That is just a way to keep us all going and to also learn some more as we go on. So now, yeah, these are the people joining the quiz, so welcome. And oh, we still have more questions. I didn't know we had more questions. Sorry, my fault. Yeah, so the average consumption of fish per person in the Philippines per year. Who knows that? I see in the chat, somebody says less than 10 kilograms. So
yeah, people are voting. I can see we have 5 people vote. I wait for a few more and then I will show the answer.
That's right. Otherwise, we show it too quickly.
Yeah.
People will between 20 and 30 kgs. We see in the chat.
Okay, let's reveal their answer.
So a lot of people say between 20 and 30, 30 and 40, more than 50 kilograms in the Philippines. And then we'll see what
the right answer.
The right answer is between 30 and 40 kilograms. So people are underestimating. So some of you, 30% of you, and a little bit less than a third of you who voted were correct. A lot of people said between 20 and 30. Yeah, interesting. A lot of fish being eaten. Yes. Let's see if you know your fish. There we go. There's one vote on the chat that it's a milkfish, another one on the chat that it's a milkfish. We'll see what people see on the quiz. Once a few people have voted, we will have a look again. Yes, seems to, there's a clear leader at the moment. And yes, that is correct. Milkfish it is. Okay, another question. What is the top aquaculture produced species in the Philippines in terms of volume? Not terms of value, not terms of money, but in terms of volume. The top species produced in the Philippines. Let's see who knows that question, or who knows the answer to that question. We give you the options of tilapia, seaweed, shrimps, / prawns, milkfish. And there seems to be a clear, about nearly half of you think it's milkfish, but seaweed, correct? Correct. Seaweed, the largest in production, not the largest necessarily in monetary value. A lot of bulk at lower prices. Obviously, the fish higher value. Yes, there we go. And the fourth question out of 4. And what is the top exported fish product from the Philippines? There we go. That looks fairly clear and obvious. Tuna, it's a top exported fish product from the Philippines. It's also one of Philippines, if not the largest export product in value from the Philippines. Very, very important to the Philippine economy. Yep. And so much more important that we manage it very sustainably. And that is also a part of the topic for today. Good. Thanks. Are we done with the quiz for now?
Yes, Garrett. I stopped sharing my screen.
Good. Thanks. Yep. So time for me to share my screen again. And then we carry on. Screen 2. Yes, that one. There we go. I'm slowly getting better at this. Okay, so there we are. Yeah, we joined the Slido, and now we're going to move over to our first expert presenter of the day. Not that Marco is not an expert, but he's not necessarily an expert on aquaculture. But there we go. So I would like to introduce Christian Schmidradner. He is the managing partner and COO of Sea Trace International. You see the logo down there, co-hosting this event with us today. And he's been working for almost a decade with several Manila-based companies related to sustainable supply chain and sustainable seafood sourcing and production and trading. And he was the founding director and general manager of Melioma Incorporated. So I would like to hand over to Christian, and Christian can then also take over control of the screen. I think you have access to doing that. So welcome, Christian, and we're looking forward to listening to you for the next 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
Yes. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Konrad. Good morning, everyone in Europe, and good afternoon in the Philippines. Yeah, I hope you all are safe with the typhoon. I observed it on the news. Seems to be quite a strong one. So I'm in the moment in Vienna because we start here also exporting Philippine tuna into Vienna. So can you see my screen already, everyone? Is this okay, Konrad? Is my screen?
Yes, we're seeing your presentation version, so that's fine.
Very good. So I want to run you through some of the trends in the Philippine seafood business and with focus on aquaculture and also wild catch. And in terms of what are the trends towards more sustainable supply chains, certified seafood and organic, and what are our company's efforts to raise awareness towards this. As we are talking about seafood in the Philippines, I want to give you a brief overview about the Q1 of this year, January to March, what the business breakdown looks like and what the major species were. We learned it already actually in some parts of it in the quiz. And you can see here the total fisheries is about, in this quarter, about 1,000 times 1,000 metric tons of seafood production. This is aquaculture volume and wild catch, and it is up compared to the last year's quarter, up by 2%. The main regions are by about 43%, all Mindanao based in the south, and 55% of all seafood output is done by aquaculture operations, and the rest 45% is wild catch, which is broken down into small scale municipal fisheries, pelagic fish, and larger vessel, the larger commercial vessels, which are not allowed actually to intrude into the municipal waters. And our major species in the Philippines is, as we talked about, the major output is seaweed, which is mostly done in Murray pond cultures. And then the number 2 and 3 are tilapia and milkfish, which is the aquaculture part of this output. The rest are all wild caught, and you see then on rank number 8, you see the yellowfin tuna, which we discussed before, which is a high value export product in the Philippines. The other ones are smaller species, partly pelagic species. Coming back to the larger picture seafood output globally is that we see basically that given also the growth of the populations worldwide, our protein need is increasingly strongly. So in 2030, we will have a huge need of protein through seafood products. But we are already, while putting more and more effort into the catch, even with sonar, we try to find all the stocks. The seafood catch, the wild catch, is actually stagnant and already declining, which means that with the difference between a declining wild catch and an increasing number of protein consumption, we will have a lot of gap to have more aquaculture products. Worldwide, this is a worldwide trend, but also in the Philippines. This leads to also the clear statements that we have really also problems in the wild catch in the Philippines. We see that 9 out of 10 fishing grounds are heavily exploited and 70% are overfished. And you see that daily in news. You have on lakes dead fish floating because of over farming and lack of oxygen in the lakes, through over farming and also pollution of lakes and farm waters. But also on the wild catch side, we see heavily overfishing of the stocks. Now, in what challenges do we see in the Philippines? It's basically when you go on the markets, you see a lot of juvenile fish. So we have the problem with juvenile fishing and overfishing. So the stocks cannot repopulate fast enough, cannot stay a healthy stock if we take out more than we can, and if we take them out too early when they are still juveniles and could not repopulate yet. Also, we see still rampant an illegal fishing gear topic, dynamite fishing, cyanide fishing, bottom trawlers, even though it is illegal and not allowed by law, but it is still seen in the Philippines. So meaning also we see that basically the laws in the Philippines are good. They are set up and improved over the last since 2015 very much. But still the implementation also in the provinces, on the islands, needs to be improved. The commercial fishing vessels, which I mentioned already, to intrude into municipal waters is a big problem, where also NGOs work towards it to avoid it. It's like organizations like Oceana are doing that. And we need more traceability in supply chains, which we also address in a consortium of Better Seafood Philippines, which I will still introduce later on some slides. And we see lack of international certifications. I show later on slides some examples for certifications, and we see that we nearly have 0 in the Philippines. And on the aquaculture side, we see a lot of habitat destruction. So these are the challenges, but also there's a lot of stakeholder efforts, and we have also a lot of projects, examples, how we can improve this situation. And there's a lot of work done by BIFA, the government, in the central office in Manila, together with NGOs and IGOs, USAID and the Fish Right Program. WWF is working strongly on these topics, and many others, Blue Finance and other NGOs that are on the ground. So all this leads to the management of many existing marine protected areas. I think we have more than 1,000 in the Philippines, depends how we count the size of the MPAs. And the whole fishery management is managed in 12 areas, the so-called FMAs, and which leads to the urgent need of fight to IUU, that's the illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing, the including of the commercial fishing vessels, which I mentioned, and also the juvenile fishing. One very important topic is also to strengthen the local production across the country and to reduce the import dependencies, which is linked partly to smuggling of low value species in big volumes into the Philippine market. And one topic is definitely to create market access, to create certified seafood and high quality seafood sources, and the market access with road to market partners, which SeaTrace, our company, is doing with local projects on the ground. And an implementation of traceability systems is important. There were examples of USAID oceans in the south, in the tuna industry. And one topic is very important for us to transform local seafood supply chains into more responsible seafood, as long as they are not certified by international labels. And this is a topic that we are doing with the Better Seafood Philippines, to ensure how the procurement in the buying organizations and companies can ensure that while it is not certified, it can be called a responsible source. And this is also a very interesting topic where Naturland will come in to identify production, wild catch, and aquacultures, to certify them and to have the guarantee that this is a sustainable, responsible source, and with Naturland even an organic source. There are also many national management plans and some certification projects. So we have, for example, the yellowfin tuna in the Philippines, as after 10 years of work, where I personally was involved also in a fishery improvement program in the last 10 years, which succeeded into the MSC certification, driven mainly by WWF, the government of the Philippines, and tuna exporters in Manila, the PTHP. And we have a very interesting blue swimming crab fishery improvement program in the Philippines. That's a consortium between USAID, the Crab Association, Monterey Bay, Seafood Watch, and others. So these topics also lead into the procurement guidelines that SeaTrace International has, our own guidelines. I don't go into the details of all these components, but basically it is to avoid IUU, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, to comply to government regulations, to avoid the illegal catch, implement traceability systems, and to have no juvenile and bycatch in the supply chains for the identified target species. On the right side, you see this, the aquaculture criteria. It is also legal compliance, but it goes more into the direction there of avoiding habitat destruction and deforestation. It's about medication, over farming, where do the feed ingredients come from, water cleanliness, and in both topics, wild catch and aquaculture, the social criteria get more and more important. So these are basically also the guideline topics for certifications, right? So you can have many different certifications. I go into that in a later slide. So also Naturland is a standard that is guaranteeing the compliance to all this and goes further and is the label for organic seafood center. Okay, so just a few examples. I mentioned already the yellowfin tuna from the Philippines. We can see here after a work of 10 years, how complex such a project can be. It's just a small scale tuna industry of the Philippines. And in 2 regions, it's in Albay and in Mindoro. And this is focusing now on the next step, which is the extension, because we have here not enough vessels. We are talking about around 250 small-scale vessels in both regions, each in Albay and in Mindoro. But we would need for the market many more, because the export markets in the US, in Europe, and other regions, also Dubai already, and Asian cities, the demand goes more and more to have certified seafood. Also, we see this a lot in the Philippine market, for example, hotels, 5-star hotels, with international hotels, with corporate social responsibility policies and guidelines. They have to implement already more and more the ASC, MSC, or other certifications to guarantee the source of the product and the responsible sourcing of it. So here you have just the impressions how the single hook handline fishery looks like, the yellowfin tuna fishery. And here you see, following also the National Tuna Management Plan, where the government lines out all the important topics, the achievements to be done, the goals to be reached per year. And you see the MSC certification of this fishery, which was a big achievement, and all participating stakeholders and the Philippines can be very proud to have achieved that. Another very interesting project is the blue swimming crab in the Philippines, a wild catch project between different players. It's the US government, USAID, it's the Philippine government, BIFA, the University of Rhode Island, who was also the university involved in the USAID Fish Right Program, Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is also the Seafood Watch, and the Philippine Association of Crab Processors. So anti-union from the private sector. So this is for me a very good example how a consortium can be built up to push the effort into more sustainable seafood supply chains, because it has to be a real multi-stakeholder approach between government, NGOs, standards, certification bodies, and the private sector. And then these complex products can be set up and implemented well. So basically, following the blue swimming crab national management plan and following stock assessments and juvenile assessments and growth assessments, etc. The goal is basically to turn and avoid red listed product into a yellow and if not green recommended product. So these are the goals basically of improvement programs, that we move stock from to be avoided products into well managed products. Here's one example which I want to show, which is not a Philippine one, but it's a Vietnam one. And I want to show it because it has also actually as a role model a good potential for a Philippine aquaculture project, which is a black tiger prawn aquaculture in the brackish waters of the most South Vietnam tip, where there's a government protected area. It's beautiful there. It's very natural kept. It's a nature environment protected by the government, and there are thousands of small-scale farms in these mangrove forests, and the black tiger prawns are naturally grown out there. So there is no external feed, no medication, and you really can feel the difference in the quality. So we as Seatrace have this product brought into the Philippines because it is ASC certified. It is even Naturland certified, even so this is not the label we brought into Manila, but it is available. And this is also, we will learn later more about different Naturland examples worldwide. And this is also one. So this could be a very interesting model for replication into the Philippines. So very briefly, I go now into the seafood sustainability standards, labels, and certificates. So the worldwide most widespread are the ASC and MSC, Aquaculture Stewardship Council and Marine Stewardship Council, which was in its history co-developed with WWF. But there are many others also, like Global Gap in aquaculture, best aquaculture practices, fair trade on the social side, and ocean-wise, for example. But especially also a very strong label coming from Germany is the Naturland standard, which is certifying seafood as organic seafood. So here you see our own company's ASC, MSC certificate, because the chain of custody has to be closed. And here are the top certified fishing areas for MSC. So you see here, this is more like in the North Pacific and in the Antarctic. There are many also in the Northeast Atlantic, but we have a lack of MSC certified projects in Southeast Asia. You see here we have only one MSC in the Philippines, and that's just the recently certified MSC yellowfin tuna. And just a brief insight into how a chain of custody works, which is basically similar amongst all labels, but this is the example for MSC. So basically the fishery, the farm, the producer, the fishing source has to be certified, and then it goes along all steps. Also the primary, secondary processing, especially also the distribution, like for example, Seatrace is as a company. And then it goes into the retail and the restaurant. Also, they have to be certified and have to be audited to be able to use the logo, to promote the standard, and to show it also on menus, for example. Here you see the most certified aquacultures by ASC standard. And you see the relation between salmon and Norway and Chile. So the two of the three on the top, Norway and Chile, are related mostly to salmon. And the shrimp, tilapia, pangasius, tilapia also Chile, but the shrimp and the pangasius linked to Vietnam. Also here, the Philippines has no single ASC certified aquaculture, which I think the market is ready, that also Philippine sources would find a market in Manila or export markets. And this, I believe that there are farms, black tiger prawn farms, shrimp farms in the Philippines that are not far away from a certification readiness. So they are basically in good shape, but they didn't go the step to certification, possibly because they don't need it currently in their own client group or market access. But that would help also a stronger for production volumes in export. Just a quick overview on best aquaculture practices, BAP. So there are four stars on best aquaculture practices. Also here, we don't have one BAP in the Philippines, but this is very often used on the shrimp side worldwide, tilapia a lot in China. We see that in Chile on mussels, Canada, Australia on salmon and steelhead and ocean trout, and Vietnam on catfish and pangasius. But again, no aquaculture in the Philippines that is BAP certified. And I think also that for these certifications, and we see here the Naturland one, it's a good moment basically to go into the certifications. We see here in the Philippines, Naturland is present. Marco mentions it already, but not yet in a seafood, not in an aquaculture, in a wild fish project, but on herbs and spices, on coffee and coconut. So now, how is the market side? The market basically is moving more and more globally into the need for certifications and following sustainability guidelines, like the procurement guidelines I mentioned before. Here you see, for example, the Hilton. They started long time ago with dolphin free. In 2014, already with shark fin free, and moved then into the more and more need for the ASC MSC label. But the ASC MSC are here just examples. It can be also similar value certificates that are interesting for those big groups. IKEA, for example, Seatrace is exclusive supplier to IKEA. They are demanding really ASC MSC, and they cannot purchase a seafood item if it is not ASC MSC certified. Here just other examples, for example, the Newport World Resorts, or this 360-degree sustainability guidelines and policies of the Marriott Group. So this is already really substantial market impact. If a group, the Marriott has in the moment 4,000 hotels just in Asia Pacific, in Asia alone, opening 12 more hotels in the Philippines. And it makes a big difference how they source, how they purchase. And this is basically an important market trend that also the supply chains in the Philippines have here a great chance to cater to these markets, but also with the needs and for high quality products and certifications. For me personally, an important topic and slide is that we should, in the seafood supply chains, we should look already beyond just the topics of ocean conservation, the water, the stock management, the fishery management, but also following the United Nations SDGs, the UNDP SDGs. Also that we need to look into the transport, the energy, energy consumption, how are the products produced, how is the packaging material, what energy is used in transport and in the facilities, how are the social criteria in the workplace, which is in audits more and more important. So we have also social audits when we are doing our audit. And just a very quick insight in what Seatrace International is doing in the last, since 2015, in our personal capacity also. Me personally involved in different events to promote sustainability, sustainable seafood supply chains, to raise awareness, to educate people, to put pressure on the markets, on the procurements and the supply chains, but especially really also to from the production to the end consumer, to raise awareness about the topic. And as mentioned already, this is really a multi-stakeholder approach, because no one can do this alone. So we need the government, we need the IGOs and the NGOs, philanthropic finance in it, also mainly the private sector, because we in the private sector have the choice how to produce and the procurement how to purchase. But here also the certifications, like I mentioned, Naturland, ASC, MSC, but also the pressure must come also, it must go into both directions, the education to end consumers, but also then the pressure from the end consumers onto the producers and the private sector. Here you see a bit of a historical timeline, how these events and raising of awareness happened, starting 2015 with the hotel industry and HoReCa industry in the Philippines, together with government and many NGOs and the educational sector. And this turned also into a campaign of sustainable fisheries partnership, SFP, and USAID Fish Right, together with NGOs, also the BIFA government, is the Better Seafood Philippines. And this is where I personally was involved in value chain analysis all over the Philippines on different supply chains. And this is the Better Seafood was an event. This is our facility here, visited by former Undersecretary of DA and the Chief of Party of USAID Philippines, Fish Right. And so this Better Seafood Philippines commits to increase the amount of responsible seafood in our supply chains. And especially, we launched in our last event how we can monitor the procurement, what guidelines can we give to procurement to know if it's not certified. Better it is certified, but if it's not certified, how we know that it is a responsibly sourced item. And this was just a few impressions. Our last event on June 16, it was also participated by Naturland, and that was a big event, good success. And we had workshops on ocean conservation, sustainable seafood, and also plastic reduction, which is connected to ocean conservation and a very important topic. And so that was the event. We will go on with this kind of events to get the message out there that we need responsible seafood sourcing and sustainable seafood. Thank you. It's from my side.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much for that presentation and for highlighting, I think for me, a big point, a big comment is the multi-stakeholder approach. The fact that we cannot do it alone, that people who might sometimes be in a competitive relationship, competing with each other in the marketplace, or NGOs competing for funding, because they also compete, labels, certifiers, that this multi-stakeholder approach is extremely important. For me, that was a big message, and the urgency of it. It is extremely, extremely urgent. Let's check if there are any questions in the chat. We're running a little bit behind time, but let's have a look. I see Melody has put a question in here. I will read it very quickly, and Federica will also help me to look for more questions. Melody has asked here, said, in your experience, are there challenges for farmers and fisher folk to benefit from higher farm gate prices after getting these certifications? Melody understands that the market is growing globally for sustainable product, but does the value trickle down to the primary producers? Otherwise, I imagine it's difficult to get farmers and fishers to adopt these practices.
Yeah, it has to. So the market price, the increased market price through these products can also be given stronger back to the farmers and fishermen if the distributors like we, for example, are working as direct as possible with them. So if there are as little as traders in between in the supply chains, right? And then we can give as much back as possible. So the answer is yes, it has to be a benefit. For example, also a fair trade. Fair trade is even requiring a legal body consolidating small-scale fishermen and farm producers to manage the premium on it, right? So that there is a benefit back. But the main topic here is as little number of traders in between so that the producers can get the most out of it.
Thanks, Christian. Yes, the issue of a long and multi-linked supply chain, which means everybody in the supply chain needs to have some value. Otherwise, why are you in the chain? You get something at one price, sell it at another. And this issue of complicated and long supply chains does make it more difficult. But many of the certifiers, this is also part of it, and we'll hear about this a little bit later also from Naturland, how value is given through to farmers and to fisher folk and to producers, primary producers, to the point of creating a shared value and a shared benefit, with eventually the benefit to our planet as well.
Yeah. Just one brief comment to this still. I think one correlated topic to this, which can be also enhanced and controlled, but if it's a certified product, is the correlation to quality. So we have a lot of post-harvest loss in the Philippine supply chains. So the product comes very high quality out of the water or out of the farm, but arrives in a too low quality at the buyer. And there, the fishermen and the farmers are losing a tremendous amount of money without themselves not being really so aware about it. So, for example, in the yellowfin tuna industry, I think the post-harvest loss impact is just alone at least $1 billion from having a high-value product like a raw sashimi product on yellowfin tuna to a low-grade cooking quality, which comes through mishandling, lack of ice, lack of cold storage, etc. So education also on the quality will bring back more money to the fishermen and farmers.
Great. Thanks, Christian. Thank you for that. There might be more questions coming in the chat, but I'm going to move on because we are running a little bit behind time. We started a bit late as well, but not too much. So I'm going to introduce our next two. There's a double header from the Naturland side. Jonathan or Jonathan, if you want to pronounce it in the English way, Schleiken, aquaculture and fishery expert, and then Annabelle Schoen, team leader of aquaculture and fishery in Naturland. I'm just going to share my screen. Well, I am sharing my screen, but sharing my presentation so that you can, So Jonathan is another MSc. We've got a lot of MScs in the group, and that's not just the Marine Stewardship Council. That's also master's degree in science. He has an MSc in aquaculture from the University of Rostock. That's in the north of Germany on the Baltic Sea. And he worked after that as a researcher for 2 years, and now works in the Department for Aquaculture and Fisheries at the Naturland Association. And he's an expert on sustainability aspects such as organic and socially responsible aquaculture farming practice. And Annabelle, also an MSc in aquaculture and sea ranching. Wonder if she uses a seahorse for the sea. Sorry, I'm being very silly. And since 2017, she is leading the team of organic aquaculture and sustainable fishery at Naturland and responsible for the strategic operations. So I'm going to hand over to the two of you. I don't know if Jonathan starts or Annabelle, but over to you, and then you can take over the screen sharing as well.
All right.
Great. Yes,
Okay. All right. That should work now. Let me quickly put that to the side.
We can see it, your presentation screen.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Konrad, for the introduction, and also thank you very much, Christian, for the exciting insights into the aquaculture and fisheries sector of the Philippines and also worldwide. Konrad already introduced us, so today we want to give you or go into more detail on Naturland organic and aquaculture fisheries certification and give you a couple of insights into the certification structure, the requirements that we have on some of the species we certify. And I will begin with the aquaculture part, and then I will hand over to my colleague Annabelle, and she will take care of the wild fish requirements that we have at Naturland. Okay. As you can see, Naturland is developing a lot. Today we have over 125,000 farmers and fishers certified worldwide, with over 1,000 processors in more than 60 countries, and the products range from coffee and cacao over beer to fish and seafood. So it's very diverse. And I want to give you some fish facts. Let me quickly check this. Okay. I have to skip that. Sorry. Computer's making a bit troubles. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. I don't know what's happening here right now. Sorry, just closed it. One second, it's loading. I am sorry. I will go on in a second. Okay, here we go again. Yes, and now I want to give you some facts about fish in general. So the total global production of aquatic animals and algae was 250 million tons in the last year, with a value in international trade of $151 billion. So it's a lot of money that's in this sector. And the total amount of human consumption, excluding algae, was 157 million tons in the last year. And of course, the region with the most fishers and fish farmers worldwide is Asia. Christian already gave you an introduction into the statistics. I just quickly want to go over that so you can see from the 1990s here in red and pink, the aquaculture sector developed dramatically, but the capture fisheries stagnated at around 90 to 95 million tons a year. But what is the message out of that? To feed the world, we actually need both. We need sustainable fisheries and organic aquaculture, or certified sustainable aquaculture in general. If you look at the species distribution, you can see that algae is also increasing or increased a lot over the last years. It's also very important in the Philippines, as Christian told us in his presentation, but also the finfish aquaculture. Aquaculture is developing a lot. Yeah, now to farmed fish and wild fish, what is actually the difference? So we have the Naturland logo, and then we have the Naturland wild fish logo. The Naturland logo is for certified products of the aquaculture sector, and the Naturland wild fish logo for the capture fisheries. But what is actually the difference between both of them, or between both practices? So the fish from aquaculture is always a property of the farm, and the rearing can be documented and controlled fully from hatching to slaughtering or to marketing. And in wild fish, only the area and method can be controlled. So the area where the fish is caught, and the method, like with which technique the fish was caught. And the wild fish only becomes a property when it's actually in the net or after the landing. And quickly to the labels again, I will also skip that a little bit. We have these labels: MSC, ASC, Global Gap, Best Aquaculture Practices, Friends of the Sea, Certified Sustainable. So there are a lot of labels. Then of course, EU Organic and Naturland Aquaculture, Naturland Wild Fish. So there are a lot of labels on the market now, and yeah, but what are actually reasons for labels or forest certification? On the producer side, it's of course the market access. You can definitely increase the market access with labels today, because the labels, when they're well known on the market, they actually have a very good consumer, or they increase the consumer acceptance, because the consumer can actually rely on them, and if they are trustworthy, the production conditions are improved. Then it's very important for political representation and for public relations, of course. And on the consumer side, it's important in the supermarket, for example, that they can orientate themselves and do not have to do a lot of research on the history of the products, on the background. The evaluations are independent, and there are high requirements on social and ecological production conditions, and the product quality is often a lot bigger in certified products, especially organically certified products. Reasons to buy organic fish are health and nutritional values, environmental and climate protection, which is a big topic now, as you know, animal welfare requirements, quality and taste, and of course regionality aspects. Now I want to give you a brief overview and a couple of insights into our organic aquaculture standard. So our standard was published in 1996, and 12 years after that, the standard from the EU regulation, from the EU Commission, followed the standard for organic aquaculture. So the standard from EU Organic actually was developed together with Naturland to have good requirements. And today we certify the whole supply chain, beginning from the feed over the production, processing, up to the sale. And we have social responsibility along the whole value chain, like eco-social certification, then we ensure transparency, traceability, and long-term supply chains, protection of natural resources, biodiversity, and animal welfare. And yes, of course, we have high social standards at all levels. Now to some of the typical aquaculture systems. As you can see on the pictures, in the top left corner, we have our national aquaculture, mainly focusing on salmonids and carps. On the top right corner, we have these traditional net cage or net pen systems. This one is from Northern Europe, from the salmon production. In the bottom left corner, this is a typical flow-through system for salmonid cultivation. Then we have also, of course, like hatcheries in RAS, so recirculating aquaculture systems, or these long lines with mussels. Where are they all distributed? So today we have for example, the Litopenaeus vanamais, or the white tiger shrimp production in South America, then black tiger production in Southeast Asia at the moment, mainly in Vietnam and in Indonesia. And yeah, we had some in India and Bangladesh last year, and we will build up on that as soon as possible again. Then microalgae production in Taiwan and China, mussel production in Ireland and France, salmon in Northern Europe, so in Scotland, Ireland mainly, and of course our national production of salmonids and carps. Yeah, the organic pond systems, so they are the systems that are as close to nature as possible. There we have always focus on careful site selection and regular water analysis to keep good conditions for the environment, for the surrounding ecosystem, and of course to keep the animal welfare as high as possible. We also do that with our requirements on the stocking densities. They're relatively low compared to other certification requirements, and especially to the conventional non-certified aquaculture production. Yeah, these ponds can have a high nutritional value. So, for example, in the carp production, the primary production of the water bodies can go up to 500 kilograms of zooplankton per hectare. So the carps actually feed on them, and that's very sustainable because you are only usually applying or offering food around 50 to 70% of what the fish need. Yeah, then we have strict requirements for the vegetation in general, so that the pond area or that the farm area has to have at least 10% of natural vegetation on the farm, and then dike vegetation as well, and natural reed zones inside the ponds. And in some species, no conventional medicines allowed, or otherwise they are very strictly regulated to a maximum of 3 treatments, medical or pharmaceutical treatments over the whole life cycle. And of course, one very important topic is also the organic feed. Feed is becoming increasingly important, especially when focusing on fish meal and fish oil sources, but I will give you some more information on that later. Here you can see a video of a black tiger shrimp pond in Vietnam. You can see that it's very extensive. There's a very good ecosystem, healthy ecosystem, giving space to a lot of different species that are living there. Yes, this picture of a black tiger shrimp in a pond in Bangladesh. And some words about to our requirements. As I said, it's a very extensive system. So we have extensive to semi-intensive systems. The extensive systems are located more in Asia with the cultivation of black tiger shrimp, and the semi-intensive ones in the region of South America and Central America. The maximum stocking density is around 15 post-larvae, so the small shrimp per square meter. No treatments with conventional medicines are allowed. there's often a use of probiotics to prevent the shrimps actually from getting diseases or to get diseases inside the ponds. The reforestation of mangroves is very important. At least 50% of the mangroves in the area where the shrimps are cultivated have to be reforested. There are regular environmental analyses, the ablation, so the eye stalk ablation, to induce the reproduction or induce the spawning in shrimp is not allowed. Only natural reproduction techniques are allowed. No wild catch of juveniles for stocking is allowed to take care of the natural populations. And we have social guidelines, and they apply generally all over the world in every country. And they are especially worth mentioning in the regions around Southeast Asia or South America. And of course here, the use of organic feed is also very important, with limited fish meal and fish oil content inside the feed for shrimps. Then we also have requirements for the cultivation or production of tropical fish species, as for example, the tilapia or the pangasius, and of course also the milkfish. Some of the requirements are the stocking densities. In tilapia, there's a maximum stocking density of 20 kilograms per cubic meter allowed, and pangasius and milkfish is limited to 10 kilograms per cubic meter. The treatment with conventional medicines is strictly regulated. Also here, the natural vegetation is very important, at least 10% of the whole farm area. For tilapia, as it is actually a herbivore, so it's naturally eating plants, we want to promote that no fish meal and fish oil is used in the feed to feed them, because then when you only feed them with plant-based feed, it is a very, very sustainable fish species to cultivate in aquaculture. And in pangasius and milkfish, a maximum of 10% fish meal and fish oil and feed is allowed. To the Naturland feed standards, the fish meal and fish oil must derive from trimmings. So they are the leftovers from the fishing industry, so the carcasses of the fish, for example. And yeah, they get crushed, and then you get fish meal and fish oil out of that, and you can produce organic feed out of it. No synthetic colorants are allowed, and all raw materials have to be organic certified, as for example, soy and wheat. Now to the certification process. It starts with the data collection when we get an inquiry, for example, and then we collect information about the operation in general. Then we do a pre-evaluation visit. We check out the farm, the cultivation conditions, the natural vegetation, all the requirements we have for that species in our standards. Then the contracts are created, and the contracts with Naturland, an accredited inspection body, has to be closed, and then the inspection follows. The inspection on site by the accredited independent inspection body, and when everything is well and when all the requirements are fulfilled, the certificate is handed out, and yeah, until the next audit. So there's an audit every year, and QS visit by Naturland usually around every 2 years. Yes, and now we'll hand over to my colleague Annabelle, who will tell you a little bit about the Naturland wildfish and the Naturland whitefish standard and the requirements in this field.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan, for the introduction to the aquaculture part. I will tell you a bit about the Naturland standard for sustainable capture fishery. We invented this standard for capture fishery in 2008. And our first project was the Nile perch in Tanzania. Jonathan, yeah. So I shortly introduce you to our certified fisheries. We do not have too much at the moment because it's a quite new program, and compete against MSC is quite hard. But we are very, we focus also on different topics in the certification than MSc. So, but you will see on my presentation where is the difference. So we have certified at the moment tuna in their source, like skipjack and albacore. We have in Denmark certified plaice with gillnet. We have in Germany certified pollock. And we have in Tanzania certified Nile perch also with gillnets. So what is so special about the sustainable fishery of the Naturland Wildfish Program? Like I said, we invented them in 2008. We focus on small-scale, artisanal, and particularly exemplary fisheries. So basically, we look for fisheries which is family-owned, or like small trawlers. Like they have all individual management conditions in ecological, social, and management dimensions. So basically, we have a standard for a sustainable capture fishery, like we have for the aquaculture standard. But then each fishery has his own separate standard, because we say each fishery is very individual, so we can't just have one big standard for all of them. No, we have different dimensions for each fishery, so it can't be applied to each fishery by themselves. So how do we get to these individual management conditions for each fishery? So we have an expert meeting at the beginning of the evaluation of this fishery. And this expert meeting is conducted every 2 to 4 years. The requirements must be fulfilled to 100%. So this is different to MSc, because in MSc you have like point systems. You can reach 60% and even get a certification. This is not the case with Naturland. You have to have the 100% to get a possible certification. We have a strong focus on the protection of surrounding ecosystems. And of course, all our fisheries have to fulfill our Naturland standards for organic products. And of course, for the social aspects, they have to conduct the audit as well. So I will shortly explain the expert meeting, because this is a very important and unique point of our certification for the Naturland Wildfish certification. As I said, this expert meeting is performed at the beginning of the certification process. You can see on the right a picture of our expert meeting for the Azores fishery. This was conducted at the government, on the government side. And the fishery proposes participants to us, and these participants also always have to include different kind of stakeholders. These are scientific institutions, fishing authorities, NGOs, and organizations from the fishing itself and from the processing industry. With these stakeholders and with this variety of the stakeholders, we want to have all different kinds of informations about this fishery. So we have like information about negative things about this fishery, like possible, of course, hopefully not, things about this fishery, but also, of course, positive sides. And during this meeting, which normally takes about 1 day, Naturland is conducting or performing the individual management conditions as exclusively just for this fishery. So this expert meeting will help us to set up these conditions, and then the checklist will be performed, and the audit can take place with this individual conditions. The expert meeting will be held at the beginning of the process, and afterwards every 2 to 4 years, again to see if the fishery changed, if some new techniques were developed. Of course, we also always happy if the fishery improves themselves and towards more sustainability. And this will be written down in the next management conditions and refreshed kind of. Okay. So because tuna is also very important for the Philippines, I wanted to show you our tuna fishery from the Azores to just get you an impression what is so special about this fishery. So our fishers in the Azores, they only fish with pole and line, which means one fisher and one fish. They fish with a hook on a bamboo angle. And due to this technique, they have a really high selectivity due to their fishing method because they don't have any bycatch. They search for schools, but they don't do it with fish aggregating devices to attract fish. No, they search fish by view over the sea. They are very, very familiar with the sea. They do it over 100 years and generations, and they can spot tuna schools in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean just by the fisherman's eye. And also, which is very special, the processing is performed at the Azores on a very small island, just with a couple of hundred persons living on the island. And this was what I'm telling about also social engagement. This processing helps about 110 persons to get an employment in the processing of the tuna in a cannery. And they also support like football stadiums for schools. So this is a really nice aspect also in engagement of social aspects. And of course, what is always very important is the stock status. Normally we get information from the ICES, International Council of Exploration of the Sea. They have monitoring of each fish stock, not in Europe at least. And for each region in the world, there are different kind of institutions collecting the stock status of the different fish species. And we always, in our standard, we say that the stock status must be at the MSY, like on the maximum sustainable yield level, so that the fish stock can recover from the fishing pressure and replicate themselves at a good level to have the stock status always at a good level. And to get you a small impression about again about the tuna Azores fishery we had in the last year in 2022, we did a press visit to the Azores. About 10 different journalists from Germany came to visit this very exemplary fishery to see that it is really possible to keep such a fishery alive and keep it in tradition, and to show that fishing, also tuna fishing, which is always a bit in a bad condition sometimes with the big trawlers. Now we wanted to show that this is also possible to have like a very sustainable fishery, and you can even buy this fish in Germany. So this is a small video about our press visit.
– 90% do emprego criado na pesca no mundo é emprego na pesca artesanal. E os 10% do resto do emprego, os 10% dos trabalhadores da pesca, na pesca industrial, pescam 60% de todo o peixe pescado no mundo. Há aqui um desequilíbrio tremendo.
A pesca do atum dá trabalho basicamente em 3 frentes. Quem pesca, os pescadores, as tripulações, os mestres, as fábricas, as conserveiras, que empregam maioritariamente mulheres, aquelas que elaboram diretamente o produto, e a parte dos estaleiros.
Em Santa Maria temos 30, 40 famílias que dependem desta safra de saltiveira. Temos 13 ou 14 barcos aqui a pescar o atum e 7, 8, 9 homens em cada embarcação e esses tripulantes, todos eles têm famílias para sustentar.
All of the gear is artisanal. So I have an example right here, if you want to know. This is the one kind of the pole that they use it to catch the fish. This is a simple pole made of bamboo, so it's a natural material with just a simple hook. I'm going to try to take him out. And you can see that one big detail is that this hook is barbless. So this makes it easy to catch the fish. And as soon as the fish gets is landing on the boat, it's really easier to, and sometimes the fish comes out from itself from the hook. So it doesn't damage the fish as well.
Land it in the boat, yeah. Por exemplo, a gente está a vender peixe de 40, 50 quilos, eu sei. Isso é uma sala muito.
The cannery here.
Can you describe a little bit what is going on inside the cannery?
Yes, the cannery, we work in one shift. We employ 137 people. Almost 80% are women. So exactly, it's 109 women inside, and it's to reinforce our social responsibility, because there's no much places to women work here in this island. And we clean it, we wash it, and we clean it again. It's going to be cooked, and after to be cooked, it will be cleaned and to remove bones, to remove skin, because as you know, tuna has no scales, only skin. And after to cut in big loins, make fillets, chunks, and the small pieces. We use everything in glass jars, in cans.
Okay. I hope this was a good impression about our tuna fishery. But what is very crucial about also our certification is a proper fishery management, because if there is no proper fishery management, there are very many problems which can occur, especially about the stock. And a healthy stock is the most, next to the fishery management, the most crucial point to keep our oceans healthy and to take out this protein resource also in the future. So the Naturland certification process for wild fish is a bit different to the one for the aquaculture. The first step is the data collection. So we have a basic questionnaire about the fishery. So we gather information about the fishery and the target species. And then we have the pre-evaluation visit, which is most of the time connected to the expert survey, because most fisheries are very far away, like the Azores or Tanzania. So we conduct the pre-evaluation visit with the expert survey in one time. And after the expert survey was successful and we have our management conditions about this fishery, we set up the contracts, and the inspection body, which is an independent inspection body, does the audit on site on the fishery boat and on the processing side. And if this was successful, our certification committee will hand out the certificate. And we support our fishery, our members before, during the conversion, but of course, when they are partners of Naturland, they are always, we have always an open ear, and we always support also our partners during the certification. So most people ask, but why is organic or certified fish so much more expensive than conventional? Of course, what makes it expensive are the yearly inspection costs, because each certified partner must conduct an audit each year, because we need to check if this operation is still performing to our guidelines, if they keep to our rules. This is a cost which causes the higher organic price. Of course, they have increased documentation effort and more complex logistics. They have to follow social standards, which we ask for as well the organic, as well the aquaculture, but also for the sustainable fishery. Adequate husbandry, like Jonathan told you about the density, the low stocking densities, and appropriate animal welfare standards. And of course, which is a big factor, is the organic feed, because all ingredients are from organic raw material. So this makes the feed a bit more expensive than conventional feed. Here are some examples of our certified products. We have wild catch, but also we have shrimps from organic aquaculture. This is just an impression how the products look like and which products can be found in German markets. Yeah, this is our team, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation, and if you have any questions, we are happy to answer. And let's go back to Konrad. Thanks.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thanks for that. Yes, short and sweet, and covering a lot of ground. Yes, the whole topic of especially organic aquaculture and wild fish is not an organic practice, and that's a whole long technical discussion, which we will not get into today. But yes, it's a very complex situation, and the issue of cost always comes up. I saw a question in the chat as well that's kind of related to this in a way. But what one has to remember is when you buy the sustainably managed products and the organic sustainably managed products, you pay the true price. If you buy the unsustainable products, all the cost to the environment, the cost to health, the cost to the species that are being depleted, and the cost to the planet eventually, you don't pay at the till. But somebody has to pay for it. Either your children or the taxman will take money from you to pay for it. So the reality is that paying more at the till, you are paying for sustainability and for your own future. I think it's a very important thing to mention to people. There was one question in the chat, very, very important one. Organic feed, as Zaldi says there, that it remains the culprit or the challenge for the organic aquaculture practitioners, because finding certified organic ingredients, especially in the countries where organic is not as well developed as it might be in the EU. Are there some programs or interventions? Are there some possible solutions to consider? So Jonathan or Annabelle, I think perhaps you can answer that. And then we have one more question after that we will also look at.
Yeah, regarding the feed, so we have around currently 8 feed mills certified, and there are like big feed mills which operate internationally, like Cargill, Movi, Biomar, and Skretting. So I guess if there would be an aquaculture production in the Philippines to be invented, I guess we could get in contact with all the big players and ask if they could certify one of their productions within Asia. And as they are already certified, it's a very small step for them to get a certification in the Asian country. So I guess this could be a solution. But yes, we know that this is feed is an important and a factor which is always a bit complicated, but we have good contacts, so I guess there would be an opportunity.
Yes, the whole issue of inputs into any production system, the agriculture or aquaculture, the inputs that you need in order to produce your crop. If you cannot produce it yourself and you have to buy it in, then it adds another complication to it. And it's supply and demand. There's always the whole market system needs to function. So anyway, I'm not going into training today. I'm just mentioning this topic. I think I don't know if Jonathan has anything to add, and then we can go to the second question.
No, you can go to the next question.
Okay, so Melody has asked a question around how long does it usually take to acquire Naturland certification in fisheries? How long is a piece of string? Yes, how long does it take? I think it's not a simple question, but maybe you can give some kind of guideline of what a process would be. If it's organic, then obviously it's also a conversion period and so on. But maybe Annabelle or Jonathan, either of the two of you.
Mm-hmm. Like for the fishery part, I would say it's about 6 months to 1 year. It depends how complex is the fishery setup. But yeah, after the expert meeting was conducted, I guess this is the first big step. Then it will take around another 3, 4, 5 months until certification or the audit can take place. And yeah, this is a rough estimation, but of course it depends on the fishery itself. But it definitely takes no 10 years for us.
Yes,
and maybe
Jonathan,
maybe quickly add on to for the aquaculture conversion period. When a company or a producer is already EU organic certified, we can do it in around, let's say, 4 months. And if the producer is conventional in the beginning of the certification process, it also usually takes 6 to 7 months, depending on the species cultivated. And yes.
thank you for that. Yes, sometimes it's interesting and ironic in a way that producing live animals conversion period can be shorter than when you're converting a farming system where you're converting the soil, but it has other complications too as well. I see there's one hand raised, Zaldi or Zaldi, I don't know how you pronounce the first name. Please go ahead and ask your question before we move on to our next presenter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conrad Hapchuklich. It's hard to mention your surname. I would like to ask our resource person, let's say if a certain a certified organic producer of tilapia here in the Philippines would apply to Naturland, are you going to apply your own standard in the UK? Because we have our own standard, the Philippine National Standard for organic aquaculture. So if they are going to apply for a certification in Naturland, which PNS would you allow? Would you allow the Philippine National Standard organic aqua, or would you insist your own standard? Thank you.
Thanks very much for that question. Yes, very, very good question. And it's an interesting discussion at the moment as Naturland is starting to work more and more internationally and doing local, promoting local production and also local sales. So this is a good one. Either of you two can answer the question, the current situation.
Yeah, so if you want to sell your products to the European country, you have to fulfill always the organic regulation 848/2008. This is the basic requirement to achieve the organic product, kind of. And as Naturland has a higher standard than the EU organic regulation, you would also fulfill our requirements. And then you can label your product with Naturland and EU organic. So if you want to just market your products in the Philippines, I guess a PGS system would apply. Conrad, maybe you're the person which is the expert in this field. And then you don't need to fulfill the EU organic regulation, but you will fulfill the national program of the Philippines with the PGS program. But normally, if you want to sell tilapia to a German supermarket, you need to fulfill the requirements of EU organic and from Naturland.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the topic, that's always a thing. The person who pays are usually the people who pay are the people who call the tune. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So when a product goes into a different country, that country's regulation will apply. And the EU's new regulation has even changed the situation and made it stricter in the sense that in the past there were some equivalence agreements between countries. That's a whole another kettle of fish. These equivalence agreements are all being cancelled and it's all unilateral. So when you sell to the EU or the US or China, then you have to comply with their standards. Currently, Naturland is pioneering an approach in the Philippines, actually, at the moment, mainly with crop production, but to look at how one can have a Naturland approach and a Naturland logo in the Philippines for Philippine production and consumption that is linked to the Philippine national standard as the base with the Naturland standard on top as the additional requirement. So this discussion is going on. It's part of our work in some of our other projects. And in fact, the project that is funding our discussion today is part of that. And we can happily share more information about with you offline if you give us your contact details. Let's quickly have a look. There's just a good afternoon from Ding Gilmar. Well, good afternoon to you. Good. I think that covers it. More questions, please post them in the chat. If we don't get to them in the time that we have left, we can always try and answer, keep the chat open, or answer you if you drop us a mail. Great, that's it. I'm going to just quickly share my screen again and share my presentation just to get us over. That picture you see there is from my home country, a lovely sea on the south, the southern part of the Indian Ocean. Yes, so we had Jonathan and Annabelle, or Jonathan and Annabelle, and our next presenter is Stefan Holler, aquaculture and fishery expert from Naturland. Stefan is a biologist and an expert in sustainable aquaculture, and he joined the Naturland aquaculture and fishery team in 2005. And his responsibilities are the development of aquaculture projects worldwide with focus on small-scale farmer groups. And since 2018, he's also involved with the inspection body Control Union as a certifier for organic fish and seafood products. So I'm sure he could also touch on some of these thorny issues that we had up to now. So Stefan, I'm going to hand over to you, and you can take control of the screen.
All right. Thank you, Conrad, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. And thanks a lot for joining our seminar today. I hope you are still awake and you had sufficient coffee, so you have still some energy for our last presentation today. Let me share my screen, please.
Yes, that's starting.
So I'm going on the presentation mode. Please let me know when you can see it.
Yes, there we are. It's visible in presentation.
Okay, wonderful. So today I would like to present you, I would focus my presentation on shrimp, because shrimp is an important aquaculture product. It's also an important export commodity. And well, we know that shrimp aquaculture has some difficulties, and the perception is not so positive, talking about mangrove destruction, use of antibiotics, etc. So here I would like to show you two examples today, how to produce shrimp in a sustainable way, at the same time protecting the mangroves is an important ecosystem. So the part one will be a presentation of a project where Naturland participated. It's called the Sustainable Aquaculture in Mangrove Ecosystems. And the second part will be an example of a so-called integrated mangrove aquaculture system in Vietnam. So it is the first part. I will start with an overview of the Sustainable Aquaculture in Mangrove Ecosystems project, or SAIMI in short. As you may know, there is a growing demand for seafood, all kinds of fish, also shrimp, of course, especially in Germany, Europe, but also other countries, China, big demand for shrimp, United States as well. So this means a significant increase of intensive shrimp aquaculture, especially in southern countries. And this, again, as a consequence, leads to a massive destruction of mangrove forest ecosystems. I mean, we have, sorry, I didn't switch it, maybe it's switched by itself, sorry. We have encountered a significant loss of our mangrove forests in many countries, especially where shrimp are produced. Shrimp production is not the only reason for mangrove losses. It's also agriculture has a big impact, land use, etc. But in many countries, shrimp production does have a significant impact on mangroves. So why are mangroves so important actually? It's just nice tree, looks good, nice to have, but yeah, as you probably are aware, mangroves, they are a very important ecosystem, and they serve as first of all, a protection against storm and cyclones. And I mean, you are encountering a cyclone at the moment, and you know that those coastlines which are free of mangroves, they suffer a lot more from flooding and the storms than those coastlines which are covered by mangroves. Also, mangrove forests are an important nursery of fishes, crabs, and other aquatic organisms. So this is also very important when we are talking about the fishery activities. A profitable fishery can only work if you have a nursery where the young fish can grow, and that's the mangrove. So that's a very important also economic factor that the mangroves have. Also, the aerial roots of the mangroves, they retain the sediments and prevent the erosion. As you can see here on the left picture, this is a picture of an intact mangrove forest as it should look like. You can see here those aerial roots, and as you can imagine, they have a very effective function in retaining the sediments and thereby preventing the erosion. Also, an interesting fact is that mangrove forests are a hotspot of carbon accumulation. And actually, they can store carbon several times more effective than land-based forests. So here we are talking about carbon sequestration in a very effective way. And also to mention the aesthetics and the recreational facilities that those mangrove forests provide. I was in Bangladesh several months ago, and there is some tourist activities where tourists can go inside those mangrove forests on the river. They have some places where you can even walk into the mangrove forest. So it's a very interesting tourist activity that is provided by this mangrove. And as you can see on the right side, this is a picture of intensive shrimp farms. That's a picture from Indonesia, actually. As one of the main causes for mangrove destruction, you can see the coastline. There's no mangrove growing. You can imagine if you have a flooding here or a storm, yeah, there is no kind of protection. There is no biodiversity, etc. So this, on the right side, this is what we usually would not like to have. And yeah, I will show you some examples how we can have both the shrimp production and the mangrove protection. So the project area of this SIMI project were the Sundarbans. Sundarbans are actually the world's largest mangrove forests. They cover an area of around 10,000 hectares, both in Bangladesh and India. I'm just looking for my pointer, just a second, maybe I can find it here. Yeah, here. Okay, so this is the Sundarbans area. On the right side is Bangladesh. On the left side is India, and here you can see an aerial picture. Is yeah, it's a protected area, so it's vastly covered by mangroves. So what's the idea of the project is to have a so-called integrated mangrove aquaculture system, and this IMA is a way to produce shrimp in aquaculture in combination with the protection of mangrove forests. So the idea is to have a shrimp pond. At the same time, you have a mangrove coverage in these ponds. I will show you later in Vietnam some more example how it can look in practice. So the project goals actually were to identify the success factors, but also the challenges in the current approaches to mangrove conservation and shrimp farming. We do have such systems already, not only in Vietnam, also in other countries, but they are not going optimal already. So you could have some organic intensification, for example, how to produce the shrimp. We have to find out what is the ideal mangrove coverage, etc. So there is still some research to do. Another important project goal is the awareness rising for the importance of the mangrove ecosystems. We were talking especially also to German retailers, because what we want them is to understand that those conventional shrimp from intensive shrimp farming, that's not something which they should list in their stores. So we want to really make them aware of the importance of those mangrove ecosystems. Also, we want to develop a multi-stakeholder platform. We have heard that term multi-stakeholder as quite an important approach already. So we want to develop this kind of platform integrating all the relevant players involved in the shrimp industry. And we want to have a capacity building and an active leadership by the local civil society organizations. So it's not like Naturland is telling you what to do, but now we will have those local NGOs then who will also build the capacity for the shrimp farmers in that area. And then finally, the idea is, of course, to strengthen the local small-scale farmers in that project area. So here you can see some pictures of the project activities that were conducted so far. We have developed pilot farms. Those pilot farms serve a very important function, so other farmers can see how it actually works in practice. It's not just some theoretical model, but it's something which you can see. You can go there, you can talk to the farmer will share his experiences. So that's a very practical approach, not so much theoretical. We have done a lot of mangrove planting, and that's also very interesting because those mangroves, they come from a mangrove nursery, so they are pre-grown in the nursery, and then they are planted. And these nurseries, they are usually managed by women. So this is a very nice way, very good way to promote the women empowerment in these marginalized communities. And also we do the farmer training. Of course, as you may know, like in any other country, if you come with some new methods, farmers at the beginning are a bit critical. It would be the same in Germany. If you come to a farmer and tell him, okay, now try to change your practices, which you have done for generations, they are not super happy about it at the beginning, you know. So you will need some training, you will need some education, and then in context with the pilot farms, they will finally understand what is their benefit, because of course the farmer has to understand and has to see what is his benefit. If he doesn't see any benefit for himself and for his family, he is not going to do it. So what is our vision of the Sundarbans in the year 2030? That is to collectively make shrimp production more sustainable, at the same time protect the mangroves and improve the livelihoods of the people living in that area. Yeah, just shortly to introduce the project team to you. So we had the Global Nature Fund in Germany as a project coordinator, and then we had the local NGOs. In India, it's the Nature and Environment Wildlife Society, News, and in Bangladesh, we had the Bangladesh Environment and Development Society, together with Naturland. So we were a project consortium, and the project was financed by the German Cooperation Ministry and Mercedes-Benz. So now this is the second part of my presentation. I would like to show you an example of already existing integrated mangrove aquaculture, existing in a way of economically successfully existing for several years. And these are Naturland certified shrimp cooperatives in Vietnam. So we are traveling to Vietnam now, to the very southern tip of Vietnam, the Cà Mau province. And there's two areas, the Ngoc Hien forestry and the Nung Mien forestry area. So in those two areas, we have certified cooperatives, and the cooperatives are set up that way that you have a processing company, and the processing company is the global player, and they have a contract farming with small-scale shrimp farmers. So in these cases, we have two processing companies. Each processing company has around 300 to 400 small-scale shrimp farmers under contract, and those shrimp farmers are certified organic and Naturland, and they provide those shrimp to the processing company, which then exports those shrimps to international markets. So that is quite a common setup that we have, and by this kind of a group certification, the cooperative, even the small-scale farmer can contribute in the international market, or can benefit from a certification. Of course, for a single small-scale farmer, certification is not viable. It's too expensive, it's too costly, it's too complicated. But by this kind of a group certification, small-scale farmers can benefit from an organic certification as well. And now here we are talking about farmers with around 1 to 2 hectares, so really small scale. And as you can see here, in the Cà Mau region, in former times, in historical times, this was covered completely with mangroves. You can see here, and the coastline is still covered with mangroves. And inside the country, we have also some mangrove coverage, but not. It's already have been cut down some mangroves, but still in a way where it's acceptable. So I think the Vietnamese government here, they have some relatively good requirements, some good laws. So what they require here, that the coastline, the very edge of the coastline is protected. So you cannot touch these mangroves here along the coastline. And then inside, if you go inside, it's allowed to cultivate shrimp, but you have to leave a certain coverage with mangroves. And we can see that here in the next picture. So then we zoom in a little bit. You can see these are here the ponds. The ponds are very long stretched. For example, this one here. And inside the ponds, you still have the mangroves growing. You can see it here. You have the mangroves here. And around these mangroves, we have the canals. And in these canals, the shrimp are growing. And this is called a integrated mangrove aquaculture system, or also we call it silvo aquaculture, silvo for tree. And these systems are, I mean, it's obvious they are very close to nature. They require a certain coverage with mangroves. Now in Vietnam, the law is that they have to be covered 40% with mangrove trees. So that's quite a high number actually. And those are extensive systems, which means there's no external feeding. Now I'm just thinking about the question from the one participant regarding the organic feed as a constraint for certification. Definitely it is, but you have these kind of systems where actually you do not need any kind of feed. Or you may have systems where you can use a homegrown feed, but then of course for the homegrown feed you need to source organic raw materials, which by now should be available in the Philippines, I think. But okay, that's something maybe we have to discuss separately. But I think if, for example, for tilapia you can make a nice homegrown feed, or for shrimp as well, but for milkfish definitely also. And you just have to source those organic raw materials. But there's some or some agriculture projects in Vietnam, in Philippines certified, so I could imagine that might be possible. So here in these systems, yeah, there is no feeding at all. The shrimp are just feeding by the natural production of these systems: zooplankton, phytoplankton, detritus. We have relatively low stocking densities. Those stocking densities here are between 5 to 8 or maximum 10 post larvae per square meter, so 5 to 10 shrimp per square meter. And also very interesting to mention that these are usually polyculture systems. So we have the black tiger species. Black tiger shrimp usually acts as the species goes to export, so that's the export commodity. But we have other shrimp species as well, the pink shrimp, white shrimp, which are either home consumed or they are sold at the local market at a fairly good price. We have fish inside these ponds. We have crab inside these ponds. So that's the very interesting thing, that here the farmers can, on the one hand, benefit from a cash crop, the black tiger shrimp. On the other hand, they produce for themselves, for home consumption, and also for the domestic market. That's actually a very nice system, and it has been successfully certified for several years now. So this is a model which, of course, cannot be adopted in other countries one-to-one, but just to give you an idea how it can look like in other countries. Yeah, that's something which I found in the Philippine national standard for the black tiger shrimp, the Peneus monodon. There is a suggestion for 2 pieces per square meter, which is actually very low. So our farms in Vietnam that we certify, those ones, as I was mentioning, they have maybe around 5 to 8 pieces per square meter. They are very extensive already, and they can actually exist without any supplemental organic feed. So if you have such low stocking densities like 2 pieces, I would say if you have a good pond management, probably you do not need to add any feed at all. So then that question of organic feed, is not so critical anymore. Yeah, like Annabelle showed you already, here some more pictures of products that you can find in the German market. And I mean, that's something that I personally like very much. You know, when we visit these farms in Vietnam or in other countries, we can consume those products there, of course. but then I can go here in my local supermarket, just 3 kilometers away from my place, and I can find the same shrimp here in the German supermarkets, and I like that really a lot, because of course I have a very personal relationship to these projects. I know them, and to be able to buy them and know, okay, this is a small scale farmer. He has 2 hectares, 1 hectare of ponds, but he is able to sell his shrimp, to me and other consumers in Germany. I think that's great, and that's a good motivation. I think so everybody profits. The consumers in Germany profit, the farmers in Asia can profit. And you can see here, this is black tiger sold in Edeka and in Rewe. Edeka and Rewe are the largest retail stores in Germany, so they actually is not an organic supermarket. They are mainly conventional, but they understand that organic products are of importance, also of economic importance for them. So that's why they have listed these products as well. You can see here this Naturland label on it, and we have some other labels also. This is the German bio label here, which they put on it. Then you have the WWF logo, etc. And here you will find another product. This is a brand, Follow Food. So these are the retail brand, the retail organic brands. Look like that. From Rewe, it's the retail organic brand, the Edeka organic brand. This is another brand, which you can find these packages, for example, in organic supermarkets. Also, this is another brand, Biomare. And this is not a black tiger shrimp. This is a Waname shrimp. But just to let you see, okay, these are brands that you can find and products you can find when you go to German supermarkets. And so this is the end of my presentation. I thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Great, thank you, Stefan. That was really great. It was really also very nice to see a lot of positive examples of where it's working, where it is possible, and what they can serve as inspiration to other farmers and fisher folk and people doing integrated systems. I think that is really fantastic, and it is. We're talking today about the way forward for the Philippines. So using these examples, looking at what is possible in the Philippines, what could be done. And I think that is really wonderful. We gained a little bit of time. We have a few more minutes left before we close. So if there are any more questions, you can please post them in the chat. I see at the moment there are no further questions. And Federica has said that, yes, we will share all the presentations and the recordings so people can have an opportunity to have a look again and make contact with us for some more information. I think the whole topic around sustainable fishing or any kind of sustainable farming, the word is thrown around so much these days because the word sustainable is not defined. Many of these words that people are using are not defined, and it therefore means that people can claim to be regenerative, or they claim to be sustainable, or they claim to be something. The great strength of the labels that are linked to a process like organic, there are clear guidelines, there are systems and standards in place in order to call yourself organic. And it means that there are certain guarantees that sits behind it. And I think it's important that these messages go out and that people understand this. And yes, you're looking at smaller production systems, you're looking at additional costs, but you're also looking at future sustainability for our fish resources, because we are moving ahead fast, much faster and faster every day in destroying our environment. We see all the scary stories. We see the pictures in Europe at the moment of Southern Europe burning and having 40-degree and plus 40-degree Celsius days in Europe, and droughts and fires. And these things what we are trying to do here is working towards creating a sustainable planet where we can continue to survive, and having aquaculture systems that can support that. I just want to look. Yes, I don't see any other questions. If there are no other questions, then I would like to thank everybody who was part of this, and in particular Federica, who was sitting in the back, who did a wonderful job of planning the program, of giving us, getting everything ready so I can sit here and talk without panicking of what is coming up next. All very well organized. Our backroom team, we had the Philippine team in the background managing the chat. So thank you to all of you for being part of it, and our resource people, all the way from Christian at the beginning, Marco before that, and then our Naturland team with Jonathan and Annabelle, and then Stefan to enter. So thank you to exit or to close off. So thank you very much to all of you for being part of this. Federica, do you want to add anything before we close? Yes, there's Nico, who managed the chat for us, saying thank you.
Yeah, as Nico just posted in the chat, we will also share the link in the follow-up email after this meeting. In case you're interested to collaborate with us, you have any aquaculture fishery project that could be interested for Naturland certification or for any further collaboration, please contact us and fill up the survey that we will send by email. And yes, I think this was the first meeting to introduce you to Naturland and our collaboration also with Sea Traces. But we will for sure organize additional events, and yeah, hopefully also start some projects, some Naturland projects on aquaculture and fishery in the Philippines very soon, together with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Federica. And with that, then, final thank you. Thanks for everybody for the contributions. And I think, yeah, that is perfect timing. We can say goodbye. Have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening to you. I hope the typhoon will blow itself out quickly, and everybody stays safe. And here in Germany, where we are, the weather is not too bad at the moment, but let's hope it remains like that. So thank you very much, and have a good Tuesday afternoon or evening.
Thank
you.
Bye. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.